And in our opinion, like the crucial thing that is coming in the next phase, in general, in the space of blockchains and Web3 and so on, is focus on usability, focus on user experience. We have amazing tech, ZK rollups can scale L2, 3, 4, 15, whatever. Everybody talks about this infra level, but those are all islands. So all islands that you are stuck on, you can't really move easily to other. If you want to move, it takes hours and so on. And then Nimbora is basically your kind of guide through these things. Basically, Nimbora helps you to go, and utilize basically your money where is best utilized. And that's kind of the whole idea. It has to be seamless and so on. And we believe this kind of user experience can actually scale to billions.
Hello, my dear Starknet Fam. Welcome back to the Star Cafe. In today's episode, we are gonna have the chance to learn more about Nimbora, a DeFi pooling platform that has recently launched their V2 on Starknet mainnet. And here we have the pleasure to meet Eddie, founder of Space Shard, the dev lab that incubated Nimbora, besides also contributing to many infrastructures on Starknet, such as the famous one-click withdrawal feature on the Stargate bridge. So Eddie, hello sir, welcome to the Star Cafe, and congrats for the Nimbora V2 launch.
Thank you. I didn't sleep much, but it felt like an amazing day yesterday, so it was really good. And thanks for having me here. You've been also one of the OGs of the ecosystem, so happy to be here again.
Yeah, I appreciate that, man. Yeah, I'm sure that many of us, also the viewers, didn't sleep a lot last night. And yeah, having said that,
but in a good way this time.
In a good way, exactly. So we are not complaining at all. By the way, so Eddie, even though this is the second time that we host you at the Star Cafe, I think it will be nice to revise a bit about your fascinating Web3 background and about the reason why you decided to start building Nimbora.
Sure. I mean, I can go back to the days of Ethereum Foundation and so on. Back in the day, I started as a core engineer. I was a dev, Ethereum Foundation, worked on inside of Solidity team on this thing called Sourceify. We kind of wanted to, help Ethereum smart contracts be better, verify them, and so on. So all the systems that we had, and I kind of spent there 2.5 years. And then something like called DeFi Summer happened. It feels like an ancient history now, but we had all these interesting new things, tokens pumping 10,000%, rebasing, and so on. But yeah, then I figure out, okay, this is something that's actually tangible, and this actually can make sense, because before that Ethereum was more of this technology. You had ICOs and stuff, but nothing was really happening on chain truly. It wasn't really a truly used for kind of products and so on. And that with DeFi Summer that kind of happened. And then it clicked to me, well, maybe now is the time to build some products. Let's try to build some stuff. And then that's how the Shard Labs kind of whole was founded. Through there, we built early days of Polygon, then Matic. That was before basically it was Polygon and so on. We built some stuff. Then we collaborated basically with Lydon Polygon and those kind of things. But one thing I touched a long time ago, even before joining the Solidity team, was this thing called Socrates, which is kind of toolbox for ZK stacks on Ethereum. I had kind of couple of brief contributions there. And there I kind of started learning about ZK, but didn't that deep into it. And around that time, actually, Starknet got the reward from Ethereum Foundation, this 2,000 Ethereum basically reward for the best solution. I was like, okay, these guys know what they're doing. So I've been following them all this time and so on. And then I think 3 years ago almost now, pre-mainnet basically on Starknet, they were we reconnected. They were like, yeah, I do want to build some stuff. We are oh, amazing. We build DeFi that's actually scalable and so on with ZK. We wanted to do that, and then we figured out, oh, there is no tooling. There is nothing to build with and so on. So we basically started building tools and so on. That's how Space Shard was founded. And through all this time, kind of what we figured out is, okay, we have Ethereum, which is an L1. We have all these L2s that kind of scaling Ethereum. But it's actually the user experience is horrible. You have to bridge to this chain, then use it to whatever. So can we do something that kind of enables you to do this in one click. So basically what I want to do, or what most people want to do, we have some assets and we want to invest them to get the best return to us for the minimal of risk. And then usually is the higher the APR, the higher the returns, the higher the risk, and then you can choose that. We're like, but why wouldn't we build this? Like in one click basically offer of these suits of products. And in our opinion, like the crucial thing that is coming in the next phase, in general, in the space of blockchains and Web3 and so on, is focus on usability, focus on user experience. We have amazing tech, ZK rollups can scale L2, 3, 4, 15, whatever. Everybody talks about this infra level, but those are all islands. So all islands that you are stuck on, you can't really move easily to other. If you want to move, it takes hours and so on. And then Nimbora is basically your kind of guide through these things. Basically, Nimbora helps you to go, and utilize basically your money where is best utilized. And that's kind of the whole idea. It has to be seamless and so on. And we believe this kind of user experience can actually scale to billions, because first thing, we need the scalability tech and so on. And then we need to enable fully gasless experience and, earn program for you. And that's kind of the whole basically, focus for Nimbora. Is it that going to be L2? Is it going to be to L3 or whatever layer? Nobody cares. What we care about is that we actually have, the easiest onboarding, the smoothest, and in our mind, account abstraction is one of the enablers. The cheap gas cost is another enabler, and so on. And that's why we are building Starknet, because it's the best thing. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I also think that's account abstraction for builder and one-click DeFi narrative for users is the game changer for DeFi in general, and it is the tool that will help us finally reach mass adoption in DeFi. Exactly, and a lot of things have happened in the crypto space since DeFi summer, but also a lot of things have happened on Starknet since you guys deployed the first version of Nimbora. And the first version has been allowing users to enjoy seamless borrowing of liquidity's LUSD on Stark. And that has been one of the first examples of DeFi pooling on Starknet, where users can basically play with L1 protocols with just one click, and also without having to pay L1 high fees. And so before we switch towards the focus of our episode, which is obviously Nimbora V2, what are some considerations that you would draw from the Nimbora V1 age, and what was the user response to it?
So I think the main thing we did back then is we kind of spread the fees across multiple users. If more users use kind of the protocol in 24 hours, then you would pay less. But if it was less, then you would pay more, and those kind of things. So you're kind of exposed to L1 gas fees, which is not the best, because if there is one user, well, you pay the whole kind of amount. If there are more, like hundreds and so on, you're paying a lot. They were thinking, okay, how can we enable you fully gasless experience? And then it clicked. Basically, if you have some asset that generates some yield, that generates some income to it, we don't have to charge you upfront for it, because you're lending these assets to the protocol, and we can then charge part of the future profits. So that way you can have fully sustainable, abstracted basically gas fees from whatever layer you are on and whatever basically you are attaching to. And then we don't charge you upfront. We kind of give you a credit of gas and so on upfront, and then we just charge a part of the future profits. Currently, Nimbora, like even V2, works fully gasless and without the profit fee and management fees, and we'll keep it that way for some time. But yeah, in the future, this is how to make this sustainable. And then the cost per use also goes down, because the magic is with both ZK and DeFi pooling is the more users use it, the cheaper it gets. So it's counterintuitive, but finally it's something that we all need.
Yeah, sure. And yeah, I remember playing as a tester, as a dApp tester, the Nimbora V1 when it went out, and it was I was really surprised by the simplicity of the dApp itself, and also you improved it a lot during the months. The UX improved exponentially, and right now we're finally ready to learn more about Nimbora V2. And I would love to know what is it about and what makes it different from the first version of the protocol. Is it just about having added another product, or you also, besides adding another product, you also improved the existing one and also applied more features?
It's a completely new product, basically. Like V2 is kind of cross-chain yield dex. So the idea or the issue with DeFi pooling is asynchronous. So you put some asset into it, and then you have to wait for some time for that thing to move across the bridge, get deposited, and so on. But what if you could just get the exposure to the yield directly, and then if you want to exit, you can exit on L2 directly, and so on? The thing basically with this is that's what V2 brings. Kind of it is asynchronous. It happens across multiple chains. Can happen across 2, 3, 4, 5 chains. Strategy can be all over, but you as a user have direct exposure to this. So that way, it doesn't have to feel asynchronous. And that's kind of what the main issue with Wu1 was. It was slow. You had this gas cost, which was unpredictable, and so on. And this is kind of fully gasless. Like obviously, you now pay the L2 gas fees in the future. You won't even pay that. And then you can have these assets moving around. And the whole vision for Nimbora long term is to make basically all these L2s, all these L1s, and so on unified through this, because users have assets on one chain. They don't need to know where they are. They don't need to change RPCs. They don't need to move and so on, because and how the vaults work, we don't have to have a new account and so on. You can use any account you want. We can propagate basically assets for you and so on. So the idea down the road is that we enable this kind of scale for any kind of earn strategy, maybe even borrowing and so on down the road. So on top of this, on top of the vault and shuttles and across basically all these things, you can expect that you can seamlessly access. Even if you're on some other chains, you can basically, it will get routed for you and so on.
Okay.
So think about it like when you think about Web2, when you think about Earn program, I don't know, Revolut or something else, you click basically the button and then bless you. And then you don't think about what happens in the background. That's how basically we reach mass adoption with Web3. We don't have to tell people, this is the best blockchain. We use the best technology, which is Starknet in this case, to scale this, but we don't need to sell it. Yeah, you have to use Starknet because that's the best one, and you have to go there and so on. That's fine for the early phases, but if for the mass adoption, we don't do it. And then, when you compare it to internet also, internet is asynchronous. You go to a website, there are so many requests, stuff happens in the background. For you don't see that. That's kind of the magic.
Sure.
That's the same thing with DeFi, same thing cross chains things and so on. That's what our vision is.
And that's a very good vision. And like speaking a bit more into practice, I don't know if you would also like to share the page in the meanwhile. And also I would like to know a bit more about the feature that introduced, the strategies that introduced, especially the earn strategy. Besides the borrowing strategy with liquidity, there was a part of the Nimbora V1. You introduced the SDAI lending, so earning and lending feature, which is the result of a collaboration with Spark, right? So maybe you could tell us also about Spark a little bit. What is Spark and what brought you to collaborate together?
So yeah, one of the things when you think about Starknet is like we are having like money markets, we're having dexes and so on, but we don't have a lot of yield generating assets on the ecosystem. Stark still is not used in staking, still is just used as an LSD and so on. But down the road it will be and so on. But how do we bridge the gap now? How do we bring some yield assets over? And then we were thinking, okay, so what we usually and what users usually have in portfolio is stables, and they have some ETH and Stark and so on. So the obvious thing is, what's the safest way to earn on top of your stables without having too much counterparty risk and so on, and still make it scalable? Well, that's Spark and DSR. So Spark is this protocol for MakerDAO that is focused. It's kind of like a friendly fork of Aave, and they have these things where you can lend, borrow, and those kind of things. And on top of that, they have this DSR, which is kind of you put money into there, you kind of borrow it into real world assets and so on. They kind of automate this for you, so you have exposure to all these things, and the current kind of return on that is 8%. And stablecoin with a return of 8% is not a bad thing. And then the idea behind this was, okay, but can we bring Spark to the ecosystem? And like they will need to write Cairo code and stuff, which was too much friction for them. So they were like, oh, but you guys have this interesting solution, so why wouldn't we integrate DSR via the Nimbora to Starknet ecosystem and give Starknet users basically exposure to this? They have cheaper gas, they have fully exposed to DAI and so on, and we both win and everybody kind of wins in that regard. Of like, absolutely, let's do it. That's how we kind of started. And then obviously after a lot of work both on that and some other strategies that we will announce in the future, we kind of basically launched the SDAI integration. But yeah, the whole idea kind of again is one click, you get exposure to this, you don't have to think and so on. That I don't know how much I can say, but there is a lot of interesting stuff. One of the coming in the future is like, I will just tease it a bit and so on. So you have to figure out your own like viewers what actually is the next. But let's say like out there is some interesting stuff happening with LSTs and LRPs and so on. So maybe there'll be some interesting stuff happening on that front, and you'll get the best kind of base yield on Starknet. So yeah, I think people will be more than happy to test some of the products in the future.
Very promising, Eddie. And
I can definitely go. Yeah, I can definitely go through the website if you want, just to go share a bit and discuss it. We have some of the interesting designs basically on the boat, like mining and so on. Let me do this quickly, and then
take your time.
Okay, perfect. That's it. So basically what we wanted to build is a simple interface. So you can access from mobile, you can access for web and so on. So you have two options: are you want to earn or you want to borrow. Obviously the borrow is a V1 where you can kind of borrow LUSD stablecoin from your ETH and so on, depending on what ratio you want. And we are supported basically by Starknet Spring, which, like foundation is really kind of open-handed and helping Starknet protocols grow with this. And then now basically also the same thing is happening with the SDAI, where you have exposure to this plus some incentives. And you see some interesting thing called points here. So basically what we did is this kind of like, in our opinion, point program is currently broken because usually it's used for harvesting users, for getting their money in, but you give nothing in return. That's why what we started basically with is double things. We basically give you additional boost from the Nimbora team for depositing in the protocol and so on, plus the points. And some of the ideas for points in the future will be that when we have this kind of yield strategies that kind of charge you some profit fee and so on, if you're your user, if you have kind of points and so on, you will get reduction in fees and those kind of things. And that way points actually have a tangible value. It's not just like some random thing and so on. And maybe, there'll be some other stuff in the future and so on. But the idea basically is quite simple. So you have strategies, borrow earn strategy, you have some points basically there. You can kind of see where you are, where others are, and so on. And on the point side, basically you have kind of how much do you earn from earn points, how much you earn from borrow, referral points, and so on. And then you have this rank and so on. Obvious earn points are the points basically that when you deposit to SDAI strategy and similar earn strategy, you earn points from that. Currently, it's 1 point per dollar per day, plus some boost on referrals and so on that your users also had access to. And then obviously on borrow, if you borrow, you have access to that. And then the referral code, what we did basically for the first phase to reward the early users, to reward kind of the ecosystem partners and so on, we created this referral scheme where people who are actually part of the ecosystem who are early get the referral codes where their users can join, and then they get a part of the points back and the boost back. And on top of that, users who also join through them, when they share it to their users, to their kind of friends and so on, they also get part back and so on. So if you share, basically you get extra, and then the person who joined through you also gets extra. And that way we wanted to avoid the usual kind of, attacking vectors on the ecosystem where you kind of just get a lot of bots and stuff. And we wanted to get this out to the real users, people using this, like testing it early and so on, to get additional stuff on it. And obviously we'll have something that's called rank down the road, like that is currently being worked on, which means that if you kind of are early participant, if you use the protocol a lot, if you participate in multiple pools, if you kind of deposit more assets and so on, you will be higher in the rank and you will have additional boost and so on. So also in the future, there will be some like interesting components on for the off-chain points and stuff that you will see. I won't spoil it too much for now, but even users who don't have a lot of the assets and so on will be able to help, because we believe the participation in DAO, participation in protocol is not only on chain. It's not only by assets and so on. There are so many other things that people can help with. For example, you are one of the prime examples of that, helping the ecosystem, but not only on the on-chain stuff and so on. And usually, the airdrops and this kind of things don't capture that, which is a shame, because that's one of the crucial things. And we are aiming to change that, and hopefully we'll be able to change. So that's kind of the idea behind this phase. That will be rolled in a couple of weeks. So
Okay.
still it's not out, but yeah. So you'll be one of the first ones to know. So you'll so you can provide the feedback, and we can get some feedback.
Really looking forward to it. And thanks a lot for guiding us through the Nimbora V2. And the UI is pretty clean. I really like it. And yeah, I mean, also the point system is also designed in a more straightforward way and more innovative way than the point system that we saw in the past year. So that's very cool. And you actually also answered some of the questions that I was about to ask you for. So regarding all the rewards that people can earn on Nimbora, like obviously they can take exposure of the DeFi Spring initiative by the Starknet Foundation. Then obviously they can enjoy the native yield of for example of the Spark protocol, and then they can also get some additional boost by Nimbora itself. So that's very cool. And also like your docs, I think that Shard Labs is one of the best teams on Starknet when it comes to educational documentations. I must give you.
We are trying our best. We are trying our best, because it's really, really important to clarify things, explain them in a plain English, so it's not like a rocket science. And same with the points, same with everything else. I kind of feel this industry went too far. It's just harvesting its users. It's not rewarding them, and that backfires long term. That's what we don't want to do. That's what we're against it, because it's not sustainable. We are here for the long run and so on, and that's why you need not documentation, but the points and even like the additional kind of boost we're giving to the early users and so on. We're basically putting our money on top of DeFi incentives and so on, Spring, to get this thing out. Why? Because points is fine, you get points and so on, but you need to again get tangible kind of rewards on top. So yeah, that's kind of also part of it. But yeah, that's kind of like, I mean, I can go through the interface and so on, but it's pretty simple. So we went through that a bit.
It would be nice, like, to share a bit about the architecture overview of the docs. Absolutely. Just for some out there.
No, absolutely. I mean, I'm also nerd. So I like those things. So yeah, absolutely. So like, obviously, like the docs are like, they're encompassing. Do you see the screen? Just let me know when you see. Yes, okay, perfect.
Sure.
Okay, sounds good. So like the whole kind of idea is we have 3 target personas. So like what is Nimbora is about users who come to the Nimbora, use it. They don't necessarily need to have technical knowledge. So basically this guides you as a user, somebody who wants to use the app and so on. When you go to it explains a bit about the introduction, what kind of the idea is, how do we enable these things and so on, what is kind of the happening in the background. And then we provide you with a simple guides, how you can first steps, how you can come to Starknet, use some of these products, basically from installing the wallet, connecting it to the simplest things. If your user just coming to Starknet, you have kind of like step-by-step guidance there. And then we explain how the earn section works, what does basically all the stuff inside of it and so on. You don't need to know you have a PhD in DeFi to use these things. We explain everything step by step. And that way you can kind of have, what happens there and so on. Basically have a step-by-step guide. So you don't need to be afraid of anything or stuff, breaking and so on. And that's kind of it. And then on the product side, basically we explain, how kind of, how this whole thing works and so on. So that you can understand how it basically this asynchronous thing and the whole engine, which is working, which is quite complex to be frank, how it works so simply and so like instantly for the user. And then obviously here we explain the SDI itself. So let's maybe go through the SDI just so you
Yes,
can kind of see what is happening in the background and so on. So user basically is on L2 on Starknet, and they deposit DAI to SDI in Nimbora Vault on L2. And you can see that. That's a one click, and basically the assets get there. And then more users, like let's say I put 10 DAI, you put like some 20 DAI and so into it. Somebody put your more like 70 DAI or whatever. That's 100 if my math is correct. And then every 24 hours, in this case, we take that 100 DAI, we bridge it via the Starknet, the canonical bridge to mainnet, we deposit it to a Spark on basically DSR, and we get basically that back. And what you can see that happen there is there is a delay between where you deposit the assets and when they moved back. But what we do basically there is the soon as you deposit basically the assets into the protocol, you start earning the yield. How you would say, and you would ask, well, we share all the proceeds of all the earn strategy on mainnet with all the users. And there is like a small discrepancy where the assets are not utilized from L2 to L1 and back. But for you, it's kind of like it's a negligible change. And that way, you get this synchronous exposure to yield without exposing you to all the asynchronicity and so on. Otherwise, you will lose for paying the gas in L1, like waiting for the bridge to finish, finalizing the transaction, doing like 5-6 things, wasting like 6 hours to do that. You do this in one click, and it basically in 3 seconds, and it just works. So that's kind of what we are trying to do with this thing. So like it has to be simple, it has to be synchronous, it has to work out to the box, and you basically generate a yield in 3 seconds. You start kind of participating. Obviously, source of yield in the SDI is Spark, which is the DSR kind of vault on mainnet. But there will be so many things, and we can use even LDRL2s to getting the yield to Starknet and so on, to scale it and so on. So that's kind of on the Spark side, obviously with explanation of that, what MakerDAO is and so on. Obviously all the risk that's associated with that. We like to be transparent with all the stuff. Obviously, all the investments have their own risks and so on, and we try to be as transparent as possible. Obviously, all this has been audited and seen by multiple, teams, so it's as safe as it gets. So yeah, and obviously the liquidity part we are also explaining that. So this is kind of the intro for the kind of users who just joined. They can join the community, go to the website, the audit, the Twitter, everything. Basically, you can see they here. It's kind of there, and you can read some of the stuff, and then if you're a bit more of a geeky person, basically you can go through all the technical stuff. What's the problem, how it works, what's the solution, what's the contract architecture? Because when you show this to the user, if you should show this to the user, it will be like, no, I'm running away. But
exactly.
For the smart contract event, especially Cairo, though, well, this kind of things is quite important because it explains all the pieces. And when you think about it, how complex the engine is and everything, and how seamless it looks, that's I think where we kind of the feedback from the user was, oh yeah, you make it so simple and easy to use, and that's what we are like the most proud. But if you're a developer, if you want to kind of play with this and so on, these are all the things, and like what you can do and so on. I mean, we can go through this, but it will take me like 30 minutes just explaining this.
Yeah.
It's
Fair enough. I think you did an amazing walkthrough, the old documentation. We learned a lot. I'm sure our viewers are very happy about all the notions that they learned. And yeah, obviously, I will also add all these resources in the description box of this video, together also with a special invitation link, because for the time being, Nimbora is only by invitation only. And yeah, so obviously, we got you covered. So you will find an invitation link in the description below, and you will be able to enjoy this amazing DeFi pooling protocol that Nimbora is. So as we come to the final part of our Star Cafe. First of all, thanks once again to Eddie for coming, and we learned many things. I don't know if you would like to say like a final call to action, and also that also forecast some of the future features that you will be integrating.
Absolutely. So I think the most important thing is getting feedback. So like what we are trying to do is, first, Nimbora is this engine that scales Starknet. In the future, we'll kind of open source it so others can build on top and so on. We see it as this cohesive layer that scales Ethereum, not just DeFi, but potentially many others that scales L1 execution to L2s and back and so on. So you can do these things. On top of that, it also makes it composable on Starknet, maybe to take this SDAI, build some strategy, getting integrated in the ecosystem and so on, but at the price, not at the price of UX experience. UX always comes first. It has to be one click and seamless. And then what we basically, are inviting users and testers and so on, as this is still alpha and the early version, join the Discord, participate with us, say us what you need, what do you like, what you don't like, because that helps us kind of grow and mature and make, Nimbora and Starknet the best place to earn yield, especially in one click.
Absolutely. And guys, don't forget to like and subscribe and like this video and share it with all of your friends in order to share the Starknet vibe. So once again, Eddie, thanks a lot. I've had a hell of a good time with you and hope to have you back at the Star Cafe as soon as possible. Thanks a lot.
Absolutely. Happy to be here.
So,
thanks.
Thanks. Bye-bye. Well, my friends, I hope you enjoyed the Star Cafe episode. Please remind that the content of this show has only an educational purpose, and it is not financial advice. Furthermore, if you like the episode, please like it and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Having said that, thanks a lot once again for watching, and see you next time to share the Starknet vibe.